Please welcome Dan Wood.
I'm just making sure my mic is working. Is it working? Thank you for coming to these workshops. I want to thank you all for coming. I think they're getting better and better and better, and I think it's because of you. Your participation has been more and more vibrant and exciting. What does any of that have to do with media and the arts? Well, we're just sort of backing up and saying how important it is to understand the purpose of art, which is to understand and communicate. That's why it drives the media, and that's why we care. We're trying to find a common language and a common tongue, a common experience, and more importantly, to understand ourselves and each other. That's the it. That's why we constantly look at ourselves and why we do Shakespeare and watch the Kardashians. We're trying to understand ourselves. Are the Kardashians too lowbrow and Shakespeare too highbrow? One point we want to make tonight is that the window of time between high and low art is shrinking right before our eyes. Here's an example of Renee Fleming, currently one of the uber-elegant high-class opera icons right now, elevating pop singers Elvis Costello and Rufus Wainwright to higher status right before our eyes. What do these mashups have to do with media? They inform the news we cover and why we cover it. An example is when Time Magazine wanted to spin off one of its most popular features, which was the little people section in the middle of the magazine, and they wanted to turn it into an entire magazine on its own. And a whole bunch of naysayers came along and said, that'll never work. People don't want to read a magazine about people. How wrong they were. Other people, it's precisely what we want to know about.
The only thing I know about most news, international, national, and even local, is what I see in the pop culture venues of newspapers and radio and television. I have never seen Barack Obama, the president of these United States of America. I know everything I know about Barack Obama by the same way most people do, by watching CNN and by listening to a press conference and by seeing his YouTube town hall meetings and all of that kind of thing. So I think the first thing we have to deal with is the idea that news is not some rarefied thing that's separate from pop culture. News is inhabiting that same territory that the Kardashians and that the Sopranos and that Empire and Scandal and all those other places inhabit.
What do you think it means that more and more young people get their news from comedy shows?
Well, if you're only getting your news from comedy, that's a bad thing. But if you're only getting your news from Brian Williams, we have recently learned that's also a bad thing as well. Just like your investments, you should have a diversified portfolio. Every investment person tells you that. And I think that's true of being a citizen of a democratic republic, which every American is, which is that you need to get your information from a variety of sources. We have an awful lot of variety of sources now, more so than we've ever had before. So if there's a young person who is only watching The Daily Show and that's how they get all their information, that's probably not a good thing. But I will also say that The Daily Show and other comedy is a perfectly legitimate part of the portfolio. What Jon Stewart has been doing on that show for these 16 years, some of that analysis is better on certain subjects than I see on any of the 3 24-hour cable channels, and then I see, frankly, in any other media. And the fact that if journalism was supposed to be the fourth estate, keeping the other powers of government in check, comedy over the last 10 years or so has been doing a pretty good job of being a fifth estate, keeping journalism in check. Jon Stewart and The Daily Show and Colbert as well when he was on the Colbert Report, and Wilmore to some extent, who's taken over from Colbert, they spend an awful lot of time, Stewart especially, not just making fun of politics, but making fun of how television journalists cover politics. I wish I would have had this when I was a kid.
Cultures at UCLA, where he teaches a course called Art as Social Action and Art as Moral Action. In 2005, he was awarded the Dorothy and Lillian Gish Prize, one of the most prestigious prizes in the arts, given annually to a man or woman who has made an outstanding contribution to the beauty of the world and to mankind's enjoyment and understanding of life. I'm speaking of Peter Sellers, a man who's as smart as his Bart Simpson haircut is weird. And this is a little excerpt from a talk he gave at the Mary Baker Eddy Libraries on their 10th anniversary.
Our job as artists every day is to change this. Is to say change is actually how the world is created. That's the whole point of the world, is change. And we're here as agents of change. We're here to generate change. We're here to deepen change. And we're between two things that we create with. One, we create with the things that are our deepest, deepest, deepest convictions and beliefs. And we create with everything we doubt, we question, and we don't understand. And when you're dealing, as we all are, with sacred texts, with Mozart, with Shakespeare, those texts are waiting for you to ask a deeper question. And they will give you an answer they've never given before to anyone. When they're asked a question no one has ever asked. Those texts are infinite in nature. They're not limited, they're not narrow, and they cannot just be constructed in one era for one time. You can't reduce the book of Isaiah to the way the Hebrew people lived at a certain moment historically. You can't reduce Mozart's Don Giovanni to what he was able to do in Vienna in 1789. In fact, most of the things that Mozart was hoping for in that piece were actually impossible in his lifetime to realize. And in fact, these great works of art are waiting for generations to be realized, not in the way they came into this world. They came into this world profoundly incomplete. But in fact, these works are asking to be completed by every subsequent generation.
So after she shows us what she does, then we're going to all have a chance to see how we do in trying the same thing. So here is Diane Ruby Lane.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. He started out as you'll hear from him in just a moment, he started out as a student in the 11th grade, I think, at Alhambra High School, and now he's national speech champion and coach and one of our mentors, and so I'm excited to introduce him.
So here's Mi Problema by Michelle Senos. My sincerity isn't good enough. Eyebrows raised when I request, hable más despacio, por favor. My skin is brown just like theirs, but now I'm unworthy of the color because I don't speak Spanish the way I should. Then they laugh and talk about mi problema in the language I stumble over. A white person gets encouragement, praise, for weak attempts at a second language. Maybe he wants to be brown like us, and that is good. My earnest attempts make me look bad, dumb. Perhaps she wanted to be white like them, and that is bad. I keep my flashcards hidden, a practice cassette tape not labeled because I am ashamed. I should know better. They tell me Spanish is in your blood. I search for SSL classes, Spanish as a second language, in college catalogs, and practice with my grandma, who gives me patience, permission to learn. And then one day, I'll be a perfected all rolling, tilde using Spanish speaker, a true Mexican at last. So that's a classic poem by Michelle Senos. And so I read this poem. I was raised in a household where everyone spoke Spanish but myself. My mother, I guess, made it a goal of hers to make sure that I didn't have an accent, to make sure that English was perfected in the household. So I'm not a native Spanish speaker, and it wasn't until recently I started discovering, respect or even appreciation for my culture that I started diving into the language again. So this is my response poem to that, to Michelle Ceros' beautiful poem, and it's called "Can I Speak About My Culture?" Can I speak about my culture? Can I speak about my culture? Can I speak about my culture? Can I speak Spanish, but I don't have an accent. I am full-blooded Mexicano, so Cholo is the motto if anyone is asking. I have a schizophrenic tongue. Escúchame mientras os digo más verdad que los libros históricos americanos. Hear me. Well, I speak more truth than American history books. American history crooks, they are panicking. He is panicking Hispanics. Tell them politicians how you took California. Tell them politicians how you took Arizona. I urge you, Arizona, not to bring prejudice to the people who used to call this land home. Para tierra usted robó, esta tierra que ellos pusieron. The land that you stole is the land that we owned. I'm finally learning to speak Spanish just for this poem. Because how are you supposed to move your people if you don't even speak their language? Can I speak about my culture? Can I speak about my culture? Can I say that the culture of humanity is unity? So why segregate when we're in this together? Why alienate when it's a human endeavor? Society is full of alienations, trying to kick them out, so back to your spaceships, back to being racist, and back to the basics. The truth is right in front of us, then why can't we face it? Beauty, wealth, fame, and color, it's all overrated. Isolation, I'm so Latin, I'm so hated. The box that we're trapped in divides us in fractions. Take out your tongue, let's speak some actions. Mi lengua es un pulmón que no hay ampliado todavía. My tongue is a lung that hasn't expanded yet. But as I continue to eat my culture, I will never run out of breath. We have brown skin resembling the dirt roads we've been traveling, looking for freedom, but only found a free way. At the end of freeways, we sell dreams in crates, while the fruits of our labors are ravaged by greedy mouths. I'm just waiting for the day they bite down on their tongue and spit out the truth. Can I speak about my culture? Can I speak about my culture? Can I speak about my culture? I'm not saying Mexicans are special, but I do consider us equal. So when you start attacking my people through the definition of legal, expect a few angry Latinos. Can I speak about my culture? Can I am tired of being discriminated against. But aren't we all? Yeah? You guys can respond if you want to. So tell me I should just get over it. Like the border? Like immigration laws? Like the DREAM Act? That's like telling Asians to get over the exploitation of opium to build the railroads. That's like telling African Americans to get over slavery. That's like telling Native Americans to get over, well, America. Porque no tengo miedo a recordar. So don't be afraid to remember. Recuerde su cultura. Remember your culture before it forgets you. Thank you.
Just sort of write for yourself in response to whatever line you've chosen. When you finish that in about 5 minutes, actually, Dan, should I say when 5 minutes have passed and let everybody know?
Yes.
Okay, so Raul will time it. He'll give it about 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
And then he'll check in, and then we'll have you all share with your group. And when you're listening to each other, you'll be highlighting or checking things that you really like. And you'll start to see a pattern emerging. You'll choose a little bit from each person's poem, whatever sort of jumps out as the strongest thing. Okay? Well, so one thing at a time, everybody just write for 5 minutes.
Choices.
Indecision. Choices.
Fearless.
Regrets. I may have taken the road less traveled, but dreamed of the other. How do I decide? Will it lead me back or ever onward? To keep afloat what always is a newness in the old, a constancy that cannot crumble or be trodden down. I could have gone an easier way, played it safe, played it small, but bold is who I want to be, painting with all the colors.
Indecision. Choices.
Fearless.
Regrets.
Choices.